Warning, this video has a lot of motion and flashing lights. If you're prone to motion sickness or any other light-based ailments, I suggest clicking off this video. Hey, what's going on guys, this is AndrewChicken and welcome back to another video. Evie is often regarded as being the hardest champion in Paladins, having a nearly infinite skill ceiling and an incredibly high skill floor. However, in the right hands, Evie can be one of the most terrifying champions to go up against, and can pull off some of the most mind-boggling and intense plays out of any champion. Evie is one of the most stressful, rewarding, and fun champions to play, and in this guide I'll be giving you my tips, tricks, and loadouts to help you improve at Evie, the most difficult champion in Paladins. Now, just a disclaimer before we get into the video. If you are brand new to Paladins or are a novice flank player looking for a good entry character into the flank class, this probably isn't the champion for you to be starting out on. I highly recommend learning at least one or two other flanks and building up your game sense, map knowledge, and timing skills before trying to learn this difficult champion, as all of these are crucial to doing well with Evie. This champion is leagues more difficult than others in the flank class like Zen or Buck, so if you don't already have a solid foundation of game sense, map knowledge, and timing when it comes to flanking your opponents, I suggest trying to learn some other flanks before tackling this champion. It's not impossible to get good at Evie as a brand new player, but it will be extremely challenging. I also discourage trying to learn Evie if you easily get motion sick, as this champion's playstyle is incredibly fast-paced and involves countless flick shots, high-speed movement abilities, and wild camera movements which are fundamental to being effective with this champion. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. Alright, let's start off with an overview of her base kit. Evie is an extremely nimble champion, boasting some of the best mobility in the game at the cost of having the lowest health pool out of any champion. Her primary fire is her Ice Staff, which fires a frozen explosive every second that deals 850 damage. This projectile is very similar to Drogo's rocket launcher, and it has no mid-air inaccuracy, so you can fire this with pinpoint accuracy even from the skies. It will deal some slight self-damage and knock you back if you fire it too close to you, so you'll want to be very careful not to kill yourself by accidentally hitting a wall you're staying behind or getting too close to an enemy. Like all projectiles in the game, Evie's Ice Staff cannot hit headshots, so you don't really need to concern yourself with heads like you would with Androxus or Talus. Her next ability is her Ice Block, which encases you in ice for up to 3 seconds. While inside, you can neither move nor shoot, but you will be immune to all sources of damage and crowd control effects. This can be a useful tool when timed properly for avoiding huge damage from Shaolin arrows, sniper shots, ultimates, and more, and can give your healer a fantastic opportunity to heal you up uncauterized. You can cancel this ability early, which is extremely helpful because the longer you stay in Ice Block, the more of a sitting target you become. Ideally, you want to have fast reflexes and time this ability when you're about to get shot in a duel, so that you can negate their damage, then immediately cancel the ability so you can go back to shooting. Another important thing to know about this ability is that you can't reload while inside of it, so you can't use this ability in a duel to safely reload your weapon. There are ways to make it so you don't need to worry about reloading as often though, as we'll see when we get into the loadouts. Her next ability is an extremely powerful tool for mobility, her Blink. This lets her teleport up to 57 units away in any direction, and you can hold down the ability to see where it's going to teleport to. You can even hold it up in the air to teleport in the sky, which makes it more versatile than Kinesis teleporter, for example. Most of the time, teleporting up into the sky is actually a really good idea when engaging with a target, since it helps to bamboozle them and lets you juke some of their damage. Doing this quickly and effectively does require some good flick shots however, which you should definitely practice if you want to play Evie to a high standard. One of the easiest ways to practice this is in the shooting range, where you can shoot, teleport above a target, snap back to them, and shoot again. Getting comfortable with this ability and hitting flick shots reliably is incredibly important to improve at Evie, and is fundamental to her playstyle as a nimble flank. You'll also be using this ability incredibly often, as it only has a 4-second cooldown, so it's crucial that you get extra familiar with this powerful ability. Blink is augmented by the talent Wormhole, which allows Evie to teleport back to the place she was before her blink within 4 seconds after using Blink by recasting the ability, which can be a very good talent for juking enemies and giving Evie a form of a safe retreat, should she accidentally blink into an area she doesn't want to be in. It's sort of like a shorter version of Talus's Rune of Travel. Evie's second option for mobility is her Soar, which lets her take flight on her staff for 2 seconds. She travels in the direction of the mouse for the entire duration, and you can perform extremely evasive maneuvers by moving your mouse around in erratic patterns, making you incredibly hard to track. You can also cancel this ability early by either refiring the ability or shooting your Ice Staff, and you aren't affected by knockbacks for the duration of the Soar, which is a nice touch. I find that this ability is incredibly helpful in a chain of combos which goes as follows: shoot, blink, shoot, soar, shoot, and then finish off the enemy if they're not dead already. Soaring before you hit the ground helps keep you in the air and gives you an opportunity to be extra evasive, further reducing the likelihood that you'll die. Then, as soon as you can shoot again, you snap back to the target and finish them off. The only limiting factor to this combo chain is how well you can aim, since if you miss your flick shots, you'll just be the equivalent of an annoying cardio Victor running around but not really doing anything. You can practice this combo chain all you want in the shooting range, which I highly recommend doing since it's such an effective way to finish off a target. Soar and Ice Staff are both augmented by the talent Over the Moon, which makes your Ice Staff deal 20% more damage for 3 seconds after Soar ends. In some cases, this talent can help you two-shot certain enemies after using Soar. Evie's final ability is her ultimate, Ice Storm. This summons a massive blizzard which deals 160 damage per second for 6 seconds, or 960 damage over the full duration. It also slows and cripples enemies caught inside, making it a lethal trap to spring on single targets and groups of enemies alike. One interesting thing to note about Ice Storm is that it travels forward in the direction you cast it until it comes into contact with terrain, meaning if you blink above someone, look down, and cast her ultimate, it will actually descend onto the enemy, meaning you can combo her ultimate with her blink incredibly effectively. Were it static, this combo would be much less useful, and you'd have to wait a split second longer after blinking to cast her ultimate. Ice Storm is augmented by the powerful talent Snow Globe, which doubles the damage of her ultimate, cuts its duration in half, and makes it so she only needs 50% of her ult charge to cast her ult, meaning she can use it much more often like a regular ability and spam it out almost constantly. When she has 100% ultimate charge, she effectively has 2 charges of her ult, meaning she can use it on one target, finish them off, then head on over to another target and ult immediately after. This is my favorite talent to use on Evie, since it's so useful for locking down targets and helping her to secure kills. Alright, now let's get into Evie's different loadouts. Evie has one extremely powerful card combination that should be the foundation of any good loadout, and then other variants of cards can be brought in depending on your personal taste and which talent you're running. I'm going to show my Snow Globe build first, because this is what I run most of the time with Evie. Now I want to draw your attention to these 2 cards right here, Killing Frost and Impact. These are extremely powerful for helping Evie to snowball 1 kill into a team wipe, and I swear to you there's absolutely no pun intended there. That's just what she does with these cards, because this combination of cards allows her to have all her important cooldowns effectively reset once she gets a kill. Impact is the big card here, which should be at level 5, since it reduces all her active cooldowns by 50% after she gets a kill. Now, it's very important that you are the one to land the killing blow here, since she won't get her cooldowns reset otherwise. By the time you end up getting a kill, this card makes it so that you pretty much always have your blink ready to use again, since blink has such a short cooldown already. This also cuts your ice block cooldown in half, which is nice, but her sword doesn't just get reset by 50% in this build, no. Killing Frost at level 2, when combined with Impact, will reduce the cooldown of your sword by 90%, which is effectively an instant reset on your sword when you consider the time it takes to actually get a kill. You do not, I repeat, you do not need Killing Frost at any higher in a build like this, because if you put it any higher, you're going to be reducing the cooldown of sword by more than 100%, which is absolutely pointless and a waste of loadout points. No, level 2 is what level this card should be at most when you run it with Impact, which I would argue you always should. Now, outside of this combo, cards are usually just personal preference, but I do have some advice on these cards based on whichever build you decide to run. One card that I really like is Cantrip, since it gives you back some ammo whenever you use Soar. When you combine this with the crazy cooldown reduction cards from earlier, this card really helps you snowball kills because it makes it so you don't have to worry about reloading in the middle of your sick play. Biting Cold also helps for this, generating all of your ammo back when you use Ice Block at level 3. Now honestly, this card is a little bit silly. Evil Mojo made it so that when you max this card out, it gives you 10 ammo back, which would be helpful if Evie had a max ammo card that lets her have 10 ammo to begin with. But she doesn't, so having this card at level 5 is completely, utterly, wholly pointless. Kind of strange, and I'm not sure why this card is like this. But anyways, the last card that I find to be an excellent level 1 filler is Cold Acclimation, which makes it so that you don't knock yourself back by accidentally shooting yourself with your weapon, and you take 60% less self-damage. When you've only got 1800 health, you need to do everything you can to make it so that you take as little damage as possible. Considering this card does all that for just 1 loadout point, I find it to be a fantastic filler in just about any Evie loadout. Now, this is my general build for Evie, which I typically use when running Snow Globe, and you can use it to varying degrees of success with her other talents too if you so choose. However, there are more potent builds for those different talents, which we'll see in a moment. But for now, I want to talk for a bit about the combo chain I mentioned earlier in the overview, where you shoot, blink, shoot, soar, and then shoot. Without any loadout, this combo is still pretty darn good, since it deals 2,550 damage over its duration and makes you incredibly hard to hit while you're doing it. However, a problem arises once you realize that after you've killed your target with this combo, your cooldowns are gone and you have to reload. The loadout I just went over solves all these problems and turns Evie into a full-blown monster. Here you can see some example footage of what this loadout is capable of when you're constantly and consistently wiping out enemies. You kill one enemy, then immediately lock onto another enemy and use your abilities to buzz around them and wipe them out. Then repeat on every enemy there is, using ultimates intermittently with a snow globe talent for extra damage and a cripple to make it even harder for the enemies to do anything about you. You never have to reload either because of the ammo cards. This is what makes Evie so powerful. If you have incredible aim and flick shots, you can do this against actual players, not just sitting targets. Now obviously, you won't be able to wreck the enemies to this extent because they're not always grouped up, they do get healed, they shoot back, and they take longer to respawn and get back into the fight, but the principle is the same. Use the Blink Soar combo, hit your shots, and then once your first target is dead, do the same thing against another target. This is also why game sense and map knowledge is so important on Evie. If you don't know the maps very well, you won't be able to navigate them as easily while you're buzzing around like a housefly on crack. You also need to pay close attention to your surroundings through helpful sound cues and a keen awareness of what's happening on your screen. If you don't have surround sound headphones, listening for audio cues will be significantly harder, but if you do have such a luxury, then you should listen closely for enemy footsteps, gunfire, and other noises to keep track of where nearby enemies are. I like to think of it like this. Have a map of the current board you're playing on in your head. At all times, you should be keeping track of where you are on that map while you're flying around at the speed of sound, and as you pay attention to audio cues and the visuals on your screen, plot the enemies on your mental map as well. Then you can work out who to ambush first, when and where you need to retreat, and what path you can take to ambush your enemies. As long as you can keep track of all this in your head, you can pull off some insane looking plays while not getting lost, overwhelmed, or disoriented, because it is very easy to get disoriented if you try too hard to look flashy without this keen map knowledge and awareness of your surroundings. Now you aren't just going to develop all this overnight. Instead, you need to practice, and then when you're done, practice some more. You shouldn't be afraid to fail with Evie, so long as you're learning from the experience. It helps to study the maps and experiment with different routes so that you thoroughly know where you can go on all the different maps you play on. Some maps have routes that most champions can't take, but Evie can. You can explore the different maps to your heart's content by loading up a custom game, adding a bot, and investigating them thoroughly. This can be helpful if you don't already know the maps very well. So let me recap. As Evie, you need to be keenly aware of your position in the map at all times when you're soaring and blinking around, and you need to pay close attention to your surroundings in the form of sound and visual cues so that you can map out where the enemies are before you teleport in and smash them to a chilly pulp. Another thing that you need to be aware of with Evie is other champions' weapon timings so that you can time your own ice block. Ice block is not something that you want to let run its full duration, because that is extremely predictable and often garners the attention of at least one or two enemies who are ready to shoot you down the moment you get out of ice block. Instead, you want to use it to deflect a large amount of burst damage, then immediately exit so that you can go back to blinking, shooting, and soaring. For example, let's look at a hypothetical engagement with Strix. You blink in and shoot him, and then he shoots at you once. He then gets ready to fire his next shot, which takes a little over a second. In that time, you can shoot him again, and then right as he's ready to fire, immediately ice block to nullify the sniper shot. Then immediately leave the ice block and finish him off, since he's effectively defenseless and already low from what you did to him before the second shot. This is a classic example of how you should be using your ice block, to block heavy bursts from champions like Strix, Shaolin, Imani, and even stuff like Victor or Tyra's grenades if you have the reactions and foresight to see them coming. Ice block is an effective tool to use quickly in duels to block damage, but rarely should you ever use it for an extended period of time. I've seen too many Evie players make the mistake of sitting in their ice block for seconds at a time, and then they just get shot down by the enemy team once her ice block inevitably expires. Don't do that. As far as Evie's ultimate goes, you usually want to use it either on a group of enemies, or an enemy who has some sort of powerful movement ability that they can use to escape you, like Maeve, Ceres, or Androxus. When you go Snow Globe, you can use this ultimate much more frequently, which is why I like it so much. And one important thing to note when you do go Snow Globe is that you can usually get away with only shooting an enemy twice when you use your ultimate on them if they're not getting healed. Since the ultimate does 960 damage over just 3 seconds with Snow Globe, you can do a sequence that looks like shoot, blink, ult, then shoot, and usually the enemy you go after will die shortly after, letting you preemptively fire on the next target. Of course, if you want to make sure that they die, you can shoot them a third time for good measure, but this is always a good thing to note. On her normal ult with her other two talents, however, you usually always want to shoot them a third time, since her regular ult deals damage much more slowly. Also keep in mind that her ultimate travels in the direction you cast it, so you can cast it in the direction an enemy is retreating to make it extra hard for them to escape, or blink above someone, look down, and ult them to trap them that way while being extra evasive. Anyways, let's cover her other builds that I have, tailored to her other 2 talents. My Wormhole build looks something like this, with the same fundamental Killing Frost plus Impact combination, Cantrip, and Cold Acclimation. The one key difference in this loadout is the card Flicker at level 4, which heals Evie for 200 health after using Blink. This card is especially valuable in a Wormhole build, because it procs when you first teleport out, but if you choose to teleport back to where you were, this card will proc a second time. Essentially, this card is twice as valuable in a Wormhole build, which makes it a great choice to run. Now, Wormhole can be an incredibly useful talent for further bamboozling an enemy, because you can teleport back to where you were at any moment in the 4 seconds after blinking. So you could shoot an enemy, teleport, shoot them, soar around, shoot them again, and then if they're not dead, teleport back to where you were and shoot them once more. This makes her insanely hard to hit, and can be super helpful in a lot of circumstances. It can also be helpful for saving her if she finds herself in an unsavory situation, since if she teleports into something like a bunch of dredge mines or near a Makoa, she can use Wormhole to quickly teleport back behind safety. However, there is one caveat with this talent at higher ranks, usually Diamond or Masters. Wormhole can be predicted rather easily by seasoned players who are accustomed to playing against Evie players, meaning they can pre-fire at your starting location when they think you're about to teleport back. Champions like Makoa can see you teleport, and know that you're most likely going to teleport back, then camp the spot waiting with a juicy hook. While you won't have to worry as much about these big brain plays against less experienced players, it is a good thing to consider the higher up you go. Also, there is one issue with the fundamental Killing Frost plus Impact combo in her loadout regarding her Blink. You see, they reset your active cooldowns after you get a kill, but if you get a kill while the 4-second period of Wormhole is active, then you won't actually get any cooldown reduction on your Blink whatsoever. This can make playing Evie a bit frustrating, as you expect to have another teleport ready to go so you can snowball into the enemy team, only to find that it didn't actually get its cooldown reduced at all. You could switch up the build and crank Killing Frost up to level 4, then drop Impact for another card of your choice, but I would only recommend doing so in a Wormhole build. Next, let's talk about an Over the Moon build. You don't necessarily need a build that looks any different from the first Snow Globe build I showed to run Over the Moon. However, there is something fun that you can do with an Over the Moon build that involves the Great Distance and Swift Witch cards. These cards give you a lot more freedom with your soar, making it a powerful tool for zipping through the skies even faster, and enabling a tactic I like to call dive bombing, where you basically soar up into the sky behind a tree or some other tall object on maps like Timbermill or Frog Isle, fly over the battlefield, then slam down on the enemy backline with your increased damage from Over the Moon. This isn't necessarily the most practical strategy in the world, but it sure is fun from time to time. Overall, I find this build to be just pure fun, if nothing else. Lastly, I want to talk about a special case build for when you go up against snipers. You see, snipers are incredibly scary champions for the fact that they can one-shot Evie with a simple headshot. Strix and Kinessa both deal 1800 damage with a headshot at the minimum, which is exactly how much health Evie has by default. So, you can run an alternate build when you go up against snipers that has her health card in at your desired level to make it so you don't get one-shot by those headshots, and can survive with just a sliver of health. Now obviously, if you don't go for this build, you can just buy Haven to stop you from getting one-shot, but going this build makes it so that you don't need to buy Haven right off the bat when going up against snipers. It can also be helpful against Cursed Revolver and Droxus, because it forces him to shoot you one more time to kill you, since each of his shots do 600 damage with that talent, or 1/3 of Evie's health. Now, real quick, let's talk about items for Evie. As with all flankers, Cauterize is extremely helpful. Besides that though, there are a few items that stand out as being particularly valuable on Evie. Morale Boost is great when you go Snow Globe for obvious reasons. It gives you even more of your already powerful and frequent ults. Haven is also good like I mentioned earlier, and Kill to Heal is incredibly valuable because of the fact that Evie is so good at chaining kills together, and Kill to Heal 3 gives her literally half of her health back when she gets a kill. I would not recommend buying Chronos, since you can just spam her ability so much with the Killing Frost plus Impact combo that you just don't really need it. Most of the other items are just situational, as they are with a lot of the champions in the game. But anyways, that's going to be the end of the video. Did this Evie guide help you out in some way? If it did, make sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe for more content like this from me in the future. Also make sure to check out the Discord server linked in the description to become a part of our active community of over 1,000 members. I also stream regularly on Twitch, so make sure to follow me there as well. Lastly, I want to give a huge shout out to the members of the channel for helping to support my content. If you want to support the channel and gain access to some fun emojis to use on comments and an exclusive role in the Discord server, then just click the join button right next to the subscribe button. It's cheap and it helps out a lot. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.